So I was thinking about making a video on Sarah, but first this happened, and then this happened. So I guess I should just never make plans ever, because Heizou will do their best to override them. Hello! Heizou has finally made the decision to release Heizou from their basement after about a year, I think? And guess who already has a C6 level 90 crowned Heizou? Yeah, that's right. I'm a Heizou fan, and from what I can tell, a lot of other people seem to be too. It's possible that this comes from a place of him being gone for a long time, but there's a lot of talk around Heizou. A lot of people seem to want him. So I'm gonna do what I usually do. Show off the kit, try to give a simplified description of it, and then show off some teams that I've enjoyed playing him in. But before we get to anything, I'm gonna get this chest. Alright. Why is my frame rate so horribly low over here? The first thing that I really want to talk about is that Heizou isn't a bad character, he's just an outclassed character. He's an Anemo Catalyst unit, which means at a baseline, he can at least hold Viridescent Venerer and proc it very, very reliably, because he doesn't need a skill to proc it. Bringing Res Shred to a team is an immensely valuable utility, but he's not the only one who does that. When he came out, he was already going up against Kazuha and Sucrose. That's a horrible matchup. Those are two of the best units in the game. They both have reliable grouping and strong buffs that they can grant to their entire team. And since he came out, he's only had to deal with more contenders. He's now also fighting with Cloud Retainer, who not only heals, but creates an entire new team archetype, and Shilanen, who also heals and can also shred Geo resistance. So what does Heizou provide that all those units can't? Talent damage. So let's take a look at him. His damage is obviously not coming from his normals because I'm not joking when I say that he could probably do more damage by building into swirls. And generally, most of what you're using his normal attacks for is swirling, because let's take a look at his skill. The tap version, very simple. Punch, and that you can see deals a respectable amount of damage. 20,000 isn't a lot, but it's something. The hold version, though, is a little different. I'm going to see if I can get it off here. I might not be able to, because he stands still. It means to charge up the punch. Beautiful. He gains up to 4 stacks and then does his big punch, which deals a lot more damage. Looking at the talent, the breakdown is pretty simple. The base scaling is 480%. Each stack you gain adds an extra 120% on top of that. And if you have all 4 stacks, you gain this conviction damage bonus, which is another 240% scaling. Do your math? That scaling's over 1200%. So, gameplay loop is pretty simple. The skill does some damage, but if you charge it up, it gains a little bit per strike, and then when you have all 4, it gains a strong damage boost. Which just means that if you can, you want to be using the fully charged version. Although, if you want to get the full damage, you don't have to stand there and fully charge it every single time, because that takes a long time. His A1 talent makes it so that whenever he gets a swirl, he'll also get a stack for his skill. And because swirls do damage, while standing still and doing nothing does unsurprisingly nothing, the preferable way to get your skill stacks are through triggering swirls. Because Heizou has a mechanic where he has to build up stacks to get a significant amount of talent damage, he's not like Sucrose or Kazuha, who can swap in, do their skill, and get all the value that they need. He's a character that no matter how you build up your skill, he's going to want to spend a little bit of time on field to build it up. But of course, since he's an Anemo Catalyst user, your baseline is probably a team like this, where I would be more inclined to use Sucrose in a team like this, because they both do the Res Shred thing, but Heizou isn't giving any Elemental Mastery buffs, which in an electrocharge team is relevant. His burst is kind of weird. It's his attempt at grouping, and I do say attempt because at C0, it's fake, it's aesthetic, this doesn't really group. C2 is the constellation you want to go for if you want actual grouping. Basically what this does is you jump up in the air, you throw this instance of Anemo damage, and if it swirls, then the Windmuster Iris, you can think of it like a second swirl. AoE damage centered on the opponent that you swirled, and it's of the element that you swirled. Is that just swirl damage? You made swirl again. Except this swirl, it doesn't swirl based on your EM, it's based on your attack scaling, so it's worse because you actually can't make the damage good. His second Ascension passive is something that... it's fine. After your skill lands, you buff your entire team's EM by a flat 80. Generally, you will play him in teams where your characters want EM, like electrocharge here, so this buff isn't nothing. This is just a nice extra thing that he does. It's not something that you really want to consider when putting him in teams, because if Elemental Mastery was something that you really wanted, you'd just use Sucrose. None of his cons are necessary to making him work, aside from his C2 if you really want to use him as a grouper. They mostly just increase his personal damage, so if you plan on using him for his skill damage, go for them. If you're mostly just using him as a swirl driver, you can skip out. C6 is probably the best for his personal damage. It greatly increases the crit value of his main source of damage, 16% crit rate and 32% crit damage on his Heartstopper Strike when it's fully charged. Also, yeah, I haven't talked about it, but his skill is called Heartstopper Strike, which is unbelievably badass. But there you have it, there's his kit, and now, oh, I forgot I was testing something. This first team isn't one that I am personally in love with, but it is a good and easy to pilot team that I imagine a lot of people can have fun with. It's a pretty simple electrocharge team where Heizou just acts as our generic Anemo unit to stand on field, get swirls, shred resistance. Not to be a hater, but I'm gonna be a bit of a hater for a second. This is not a team that I would use Heizou in, because while he does work in it, it is not something that is particularly suited towards his strengths, which is what I like to look for when I'm building a team for a character. Because Heizou is a character who, while he usually takes the same slot as Sucrose or Kazuha, he does different things. He wants different things out of a team. If I played this better and I wasn't talking, I could definitely get a better record. So that's why I like to run him in teams like this. Because he asks for a little bit of field time, but not enough to fill out a rotation, I like to use him as a dual carry. And my other character that I like to run as a dual carry is Kokomi. I have become a recent fan of this team. I originally played it with Beto, but I like Auron more now that he's out. Okay, I messed up my rotation. Alright, so what is it? What am I doing? So that is my general rotation with it, is I start off, I get all my buffs off, I come in with Heizou, I do one skill, I swap to Kokomi, I do a few normals, okay, if I don't get frozen, I do a few normals on her, and then back to Heizou, and he ends it off with another punch, and gets the maximum amount of damage bonus from Farina. So these two characters that want sort of awkward field times that can't really take up a full rotation, or don't deal enough damage to warrant a full rotation, I've put them into a context, I didn't see I was out of time, but I've put them into a context where they can both comfortably get on field, do a little bit of damage, and then give some time to the other. And as it just so happens, this is an electrocharge team, which makes very good use of Anemo units. It's possible, I'm not gonna mess around with this too much, but I'm gonna go for an attack goblet and see if I can get big number out of that. Stop stealing my energy! Okay, never mind, I'm not doing this anymore. We're going to Natland, we're going to the artifact domain. I really love this team because neither Heizou or Kokomi really get full value of using their normal attacks themselves. They both have lower damage than the rest of the cast because both of their normal attacks have supportive utility. Kokomi's, while in her burst, heal, and Heizou's do the res shred thing. And in this team, because Farina changes healing into damage bonus, they sort of benefit each other by doing their normal attacks, which is, in my opinion, what a lot of dual carries lack. And both of them, they're only ever on field for as long as they're most effective. Heizou only really needs to proc his res shred and get his big talent damage, and Kokomi really only has to do enough healing to build a decent amount of fanfare. Die please, thank you. Anyways, moving on to my next team. This is hypercarry Heizou. So I was gonna do a big thing about how technically Viridescent Venerer is still good on this team because Farina does a lot of its damage, even though it's a Heizou team. And then I remembered that I have another Animo unit on the team. So it's gonna be Scuffed, but I think that this is actually the way to go. And that has now allowed me to go on Marechaussee and go stupid on my crit ratio. This is a lot better. With Marechaussee, it goes up to 71, and with C6, gives 16% crit rate, bumps me up to 87. But here you go. Here is your... Oh, and also they got me to start using Widsith because I was overcapping on crit with anything else. So the number one Widsith hater is now on Widsith. Here we go. Boom. 172. That's pretty nice. 194. Okay. I doubt I'll be able to hit much higher than that. I can try to hit 200k. Who knows if I'll get it. Also, because it's Widsith, it's going to be pretty inconsistent. I didn't even see my number there. Don't kill it, don't kill it, don't kill it. Oh, I lost my Bennett buff. I don't have too much to say about this team. It is your traditional hypercarry team. The only thing that I really like is VV Farazan is funny. Whee. Oh, that already over 200k. Did I get the damage bonus from Widsith? Yeah, that's probably contributing a lot. I don't think we're getting above 212. That was pretty big. Something that's pretty noticeable in this team is it can be pretty hard to get your swirls, because Farina doesn't apply Pyro the most consistently.
Yeah, she doesn't apply Pyro consistently. She doesn't apply Pyro at all!
Heizou fits here about as well as any other unit would. The only real things that I want to look out for are your artifact sets, because obviously in this team you can put Heizou on VV, but it is probably better to put him on a damaging set and Farazan on VV, because really no matter what, there's very little she can do to benefit Heizou with her set, so she might as well benefit Farina. The same thing is kind of said of Bennett. I like putting him on maidens and Farina teams. It makes them way more comfortable, makes the healing a lot better. But we know that Heizou can hit for over 200k now. Very cool. What is the last thing that I have planned? I've been seeing a lot of talk about aggravate Heizou, and I sort of was always like, oh, I don't really know what you're talking about, because he can't apply Electro outside of doing his burst. I thought that him and Nahida would just eat through this Electro way too fast. Then you'd just be stuck attacking Dendro with Heizou, which that was sort of the case in my Fischl team because I don't have Fischl C6, but with Fischl C6 or Beto, that's not a problem. I wish I could talk about it more, but I don't have C6 Fischl, so yee. That's it from me today. Let me know what you think about this little detective from Inazuma in the comments. While he is becoming less and less relevant as more characters come out, he will always have a relevant place in my heart. If you like this video, you can leave a like. If you like me, you can subscribe. I do have thoughts about what I'm going to do for the upcoming videos, but any recommendations are always welcome. Y'all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.